Welcome back to this series of instructional videos on the Intopia game. This particular section is on selling, so we have to assume we have some stuff made now. Either we've received it from another team or we made it ourselves, and we're ready to sell. Okay, pretty straightforward to sell to the end consumers. So every market has sort of this virtual market of end consumers that are willing to buy product. All you need is to have some product in that area. So that means you have to have produced it in the previous period or have received it from another team, either by air shipments in this period or by surface shipments in the other period. And all you need to do once you have that is set a price, okay? You don't need to have plants in the same area. You don't need to have sales offices, or you don't need to be a wholesaler. Really, anybody can sell in an area as long as they have product and are able to set a price. So if we look at the simulation website and go to marketing, this is very straightforward. Set a consumer price for X. Here we go. We can see in North America I've already set a lowest or standard grade price of $58, and let's just bump this up here. We'll set a deluxe or highest grade available of X for $65, and those are our prices. Save, and we're all done. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Okay. Now, of course, there's a little bit more that goes into how you set your prices and that sort of thing, and we'll be covering some of the things like research in upcoming videos. Okay. In terms of actually marketing itself, I'll talk a little bit about the marketing aspects of this game in terms of what the markets are, and then your standard marketing mix, or your 4 Ps as related to this game. Okay, now typically there's 3 sorts of markets that are available in the simulation game. One is the end consumer market. This is a virtual market, so it's sort of housed within the game. It's assumes that there are a bunch of consumers in each area that are willing and ready to pay for X and Y. So in the smartphone example, there would be consumers that in each of the areas that want to buy both batteries and smartphones from companies. Okay, they are usually receptive to higher grades, meaning that in later stages of the game, things like your X0 and Y0 maybe aren't going to be as effectively sold to the consumer markets. Okay. Other companies in the game, such as Y producers, also have a demand for X. So if there's a company out there that decides that they are just going to focus on finished goods, so let's say smartphones in this case, they're going to have a demand for product X or batteries, since they are a necessary component of the smartphone. Okay, so they will be actively outsourcing X from other firms in the game. Wholesalers are sort of a special breed. They have their own effective brands at selling to end consumers. One of the things that they have to do is go out and source both X and Y from other teams in the game. So wholesalers don't produce, they just really act as an intermediary between producers and the end consumer markets. You may find that there's also a demand for other services in the game. Certainly the Intopia simulation allows you to act as a loaning agent if you wish. So if other teams need capital, you can loan money to them and be able to receive interest payments as such. You can also do R&D and license other teams and make profits through licensing fees. While the game allows for you to buy insurance from the game itself, that may be something that one team may wish to do, is to offer insurance to other teams. Okay. Throughout the game, you may also find that governments and agencies may decide to launch special bids for products. So the government of China, for instance, might want 100,000 cell phones or smartphones, and teams will be able to bid on those games, on those particular products. Okay. In terms of product considerations, each grade represents an improvement, and I say that I've had that in quotations because it's not always the case that a new grade represents an improvement. Market research that you buy will tell you whether these new grades are acceptable or not. So typically a an increase in grade, say from a Y2 to a Y3, will result in some consumer excitement, so they may buy new grades. However, in some games, you may find that new grades might have a few introductory problems. And again, you'll have to watch the market research and the sales to cover that. Okay. In terms of promotion, there's really two types. One are promotions that are aimed at the consumer market, and you do that in the decision program, and I'll jump over there in just a second. Where you advocate or you allocate dollars to various advertising media. And the other is business-to-business advertising, and that's really informal, where you're communicating with other teams in the game. So that might be through email, that might be through physical posters and banners, or just face-to-face communications that you do in the game. And really that's what makes this game so rich, is the amount of inter-team interactions that occur. Okay, so if we flip back over to the decision program, you'll see that there's the place where you set marketing expenses. Once again, I have timed out. Let's try it again here. Okay, so setting marketing expenses, and you can see that, again, this is by area. So here we're going to select North America, and all we're going to do is allocate marketing expenses. Remember, the amounts here are in thousands of dollars, so let's say we're going to spend $10,000 in print media, $15,000 in television, and $45,000 in this case, event marketing. And what that does now is that just applies that $70,000 in this particular case across a whole bunch of different media. Okay, so that's how you set marketing expenses. Okay, the effect that you get from these advertising expenses will carry over several periods. Okay, but unfortunately there's no crossover effect. So if you advertise for X, that's really not going to have any effect on Y whatsoever. Okay, so you have to advertise for both separate things. Now, in terms of channels, there's a couple of different channels available in the game. You have manufacturing agents, sales offices or captive sales organizations, and then wholesalers. Okay. Now, in terms of channels or manufacturing agents, these are virtual and they are in the game, so they exist for everybody to use. So if you have inventory and you set a price and you don't have anything else, then these manufacturing agents will go to work for you, and they'll just charge you a commission per unit. Okay, so you don't need sales offices or anything like that to sell. These agents are willing to work on your behalf. Now, an alternative to that is to set up your own sales organization. So what you can do is open sales offices in an area, which takes a period to do. And once you do that, you have your own sales force going to work for you. Okay. Now, if you're selling a lot of different products or a large quantity of products, this is a more optimal way to go. And also, if you open more sales offices, that also has a quantity effect. So you can affect that for each additional sales office that you open, you're going to find an increase in demand associated from that particular sales office. Okay. Now, opening sales offices are really quite simple. You just go to the open sales office, and you can see already down at the bottom here we have a list of the number of sales offices that we've opened. So in Europe, so far we've opened 3. So we may decide that we're also going to open 1 in North America, and you'll see that that is updated accordingly. Okay. You can also use the same thing to close the sales office. So you may find that if you wanted to bail out of a particular market at some particular point, let's say Europe's just not doing it for you, you might want to go in there and close your sales offices. And again, remember that those take a period to take effect. Okay. You'll find on your income statement that there's a periodic cost to operate your sales offices. Okay, so this is like a rent cost. So you don't really own sales offices, you're just renting them. And you'll find that as you open and close sales offices, it's better to be incremental. So open, a couple at a time, because you'll find that the costs escalate with the more that you open in one particular period. Now, wholesalers are teams in the game, and they have their own sales offices and no production plants or in the area in which they're a wholesaler. So they only have sales offices in a particular operating area. Now you have to assume that wholesalers are more effective at marketing, so they're area specialists. So, you know, with everything else equal, if they set the same price as you for a particular product in a market, they're going to sell more because they have a stronger brand. Okay? They also have some efficiencies in terms of inventory storage, meaning that it costs them less to store inventory in an area than it does you. So that's their advantages. Okay? So to become a wholesaler, you just register on the website under the special services thing. And you just remember that you need to have a supply of both X and Y. So wholesalers sell both. So you can't be a wholesaler for just one particular product. You have to be for both. Okay? Once you get registered, you will automatically receive 2 of the market research items, market research item 2 and 23, which are the prices and sales quantities for all teams in each areas, which is an important market research item for wholesalers to have. Okay. Now you may wholesale in one area and produce in another. In other words, you might be a producer in China and a wholesaler in North America, and that's fine. Most of the time, however, and check with your game administrator, you need to be supplying or getting supply from other teams in the game. Okay, so you can't, 50% of your supply in a particular area, in this case North America, has to come from other teams, not just from yourself. Okay, now what I've drawn here is just a little network of a previous version of this game. And you can see that Team 19 in the middle there is a wholesaler in green. And you can see the network that they have developed over the course of the game through intercompany sales, with thicker lines being represented by you know, more transactions. So you can see in this particular case, Team 19 is dealing a lot with Team 36 and getting supply from them. So this is sort of the typical thing that happens throughout the course of the game, where you're selling products to other teams and interacting with them quite frequently. And in this particular case, if I remember correctly, Team 19 did pretty well, and you can see why they did well, because they had a rich network of suppliers in this particular game. So selling products to other teams is relatively straightforward. You just go to intercompany sales, and you can click on, say, sell X to another team. And you can see in this particular case, we don't have any intercompany sales at this point. We're going to add new, and then just fill out the particulars. So let's say we're selling our product to Team 8. We're going from North America to Europe, selling grade 1, quantity of 15,000 units, and we're going to sell it at a price of $15. Okay, here we can select our currency. We're going to use US dollars, air freight, and we're going to collect 100% cash. Okay, once we save that, we go back, we can see that our area or our intercompany sale is updated in this particular place, and we can edit or delete it as we need to. Okay, so you'll find that all of your intercompany sales are listed in this particular form here. Okay, so that's fairly straightforward. You'll find that once you get into intercompany sales, one of the things that you're going to want to do is develop contracts with other teams. We'll provide you with some sample contracts, but you know, there's a couple of things that you need to consider. Most of the time, we're not going to enforce verbal contracts in the game. One of the things that invariably happens in the simulation is that other teams make mistakes. So you're waiting for product from somebody, and they forget to sell it to you, or they send it to a different area. So oftentimes that leads to a little bit of conflict. So you're going to want to build things into your contracts to make sure that those things are mitigated when they occur. Okay, so some of the things that you should consider when building your contract are what are the payment terms, shipment speed, future considerations, that sort of thing. And if you happen to be taking a business law course, you can work on those sorts of things with your law producer. Okay, and that's really all you need to know about selling.